The San Francisco 49ers, after coming off of an upset in the Super Wildcard weekend, are traveling to Lambeau Field to take on Aaron Rodgers and the number 1 seeded Green Bay Packers. It's going to be cold in Lambeau, 9 degrees, game time temperature, 11 mile per hour winds. So coldness is definitely going to be a factor from a team that plays primarily in San Francisco, traveling to Green Bay. Green Bay at home, getting 5.5 points on the spread, over under 47.5. Couple things to note. Obviously, I mention this every time these two teams play. They played each other one time this year already. Week 3, the Packers won, come from behind, final kick, 30-28. That was in San Francisco. This is in Lambeau. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing I mentioned, even when we talked about it last time, is Aaron Rodgers has this weird rivalry with the 49ers because they passed up on Aaron Rodgers and they drafted Alex Smith. And so that is something that, in my opinion, he never has forgotten about. So there's that added motivation. What else are you guys seeing in this game?
Yeah, so this is like a rematch of last year's divisional matchup against the 49ers and the Green Bay Packers. And Mason Crosby, the 49ers scored a touchdown late in the game, and Mason Crosby comes back and scores a 51-yard field goal to win the game. So, I'm sure that's in the mind of the 49ers, and they're a different team now. They run the ball really well.
With their receiver,
Deebo Samuel, and with their running back, Elijah Mitchell, right? Yeah. Elijah Mitchell, even having missing, I think it was 8 games or 6 games, he is the 8th. He is 8th in rushing yards this year. Yep. So this guy is a beast. He can do a lot of things in the running for the 49ers in the running game. And Packers are, I believe, top 10 in rush defense, but have they really had a fight or a team like the 49ers who run the ball that well? So I think it's going to be a big test for the Packers. Another interesting thing to think about is we talk about Aaron Rodgers, how great he is. Maybe second GOAT, I don't know. But here's a very key fact in the playoffs. When Aaron Rodgers throws an interception, the Packers are 1-6.
Damn.
When Aaron Rodgers doesn't throw an interception, they're 6-1. So limit the turnovers. Aaron Rodgers has to continue being flawless in order for them to move on to the next round and beat the 49ers.
Jeez, what a burden to have on your shoulders. You got to be perfect.
Yeah. That's why he's the baby goat. That's why he'll be in that conversation.
No, yeah. Absolutely. There's some reasons. So this is the hardest matchup for me to figure out who's going to win, actually, to be honest with you, because it was, I have the Packers winning the Super Bowl, right? So I'm going to pick the Packers to win this game. However, there's so many things going against the Packers. There's so many things going against the 49ers. And I'm going to tell you a couple of these things, okay? So the Packers have not beaten the 49ers in the playoffs since 2001. Okay, that's a fact. Mm-hmm. And Rodgers is 11-9 in his career in the playoffs. So this guy that we see, this indestructible force that we've known, we see twice a year as Vikings fans, and you just from sheer Aaron Rodgers is the man, right?
Right.
He's 11-9 in the playoffs. That's not very good. It's a winning record, but what's going on here? So then you start diving deep into the why this is happening, all this stuff, and it can make you go crazy, because now I have some stats on why the 49ers are looking really, really risky if you want to pick the 49ers game. Cali teams are 2-12 playing in Green Bay in the months of December or January.
Makes sense.
Ever. In all time.
Makes sense.
Okay? So, you're coming from, this perfect weather. I'm coming from Fort Worth, and, this is feeling a little bit colder than that, and I'm already, complaining. But I'm also wearing shorts. But, think about coming from the West Coast, man, and then going to Green Bay with that weather and that atmosphere. Yep. That's why they're 2-12. Guess which team has those 2 wins?
Cali team? Probably the 49ers.
Yeah, they have both those 2 wins.
Okay. Makes sense.
But they're also 2-5 overall.
Yeah.
So they have played them quite a bit. So, these are just crazy, one end to the other end kind of stats, right? Aaron Rodgers does not really play that well in the playoffs. And then you have Cali teams struggling tremendously when they come to Green Bay. So now it's these little small factors that I mention quite often. I've been mentioning throughout the year, this is a really weird reason why this team could win. This is a really weird reason why this team could lose. But these stats seem almost meaningless at this point because of the crazy amount of dichotomy going on amongst these two teams. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned the Aaron Rodgers feud against the San Francisco 49ers for not picking him. So there's a lot of reasons. If you were to just give stats and take the name Packers and take the name San Francisco away from these two teams and just presented the statistics to another individual who has no idea which team we're presenting the stats of, I don't know if they would pick the right teams. Because, the Packers haven't beaten the 49ers in the playoffs since 2001. I feel like that one's a pretty significant one to like choose one team or the other. So it's like, it's up for grabs.
Yeah, absolutely. We all have the Packers making the Super Bowl, right? So this does present us with a little bit of a predicament because the 49ers obviously upset the Cowboys on the road. They're playing with a ton of momentum right at the right time. They have the history with Shanahan against LaFleur. They both were coaches with the the Redskins at the time. So there's history like every way you unpack it. Yeah. And we talked about Aaron Rodgers so much, and one key to the 49ers' success is Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo has won like over 70% of his starts for the 49ers or something stupidly outrageous, right? But he's got a torn ligament on his throwing hand thumb, right? So obviously, even if like he can play, which he will, he's going to play. That's got to present some sort of burden or obstacle for him. And then he also suffered a shoulder sprain last week against Dallas. So he's been on the injury report all week. He's a little bit hobbled. There was even talks earlier of if Trey Lance would get into the flow and see some snaps with that read option or in the red zone. So that to me is a huge X factor because Green Bay is getting healthier. David Bakhtiari is supposed to be back for them, which he hasn't played pretty much all year. That's one of the best linemen of all time in football, coming back for Aaron Rodgers. And then the shutdown corner, Jair Alexander. I don't know his exact status, but I know he practiced.
He's questionable, and Bakhtiari is doubtful at this moment.
Oh, Bakhtiari is doubtful now?
I don't know if he'll ever play, dude. I don't know what's going on. We've been talking about him since like week 4.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's doubtful as of like 4 or 5 hours ago.
Okay.
I don't know.
They have Jair Alexander, and they also have Zadarius Smith. Okay, so they have like 3 cogs that are the 2 best players on their defense and probably the best offensive linemen they have. So like if any of those play, even one out of those 3 play, that's a huge thing. If Jair Alexander plays, that's a shutdown cornerback, right? Zadarius Smith plays, that's a middle linebacker that's navigating the entire defense. Or if you have David Bakhtiari, that's a tackle that's literally the most important positions in football. So there's a lot to unpack here. Obviously, 5.5 points in the playoffs against a team that loves to run the football. That's a lot of points, right? Because teams that run, that can sustain drives, that can even just kick field goals and drives with field goals, keep the score close. So 5.5 seems like a lot. But Green Bay at home this year, I think there's been times early in the season where I was like, I don't know. Does Aaron Rodgers really have it this year? Does he give a shit? Like, he came into the season hating the Packers franchise and all this BS, but this is like the scariest Packers team I can remember in recent memory. So I'm a little worried that there's an added motivation to Rodgers. Adams, his contract's about to be up, so there's an added motivation from the 2 best players on their team, and that's something I don't want to follow.
And then there's an added motivation on the coaches, right? Matt LaFleur is like the mentee to the mentor, who's Shanahan. So that's going to be interesting to see. I'm sure he wants to go out on top and defeat his mentor.
Yeah, he hasn't slept, I'm sure. I'm sure like if there's one win he wants,
is this one.
It's this one, right? And another thing, forget the added motivation between Adams and Rodgers. Just hear me out about these statistics before even this the added motivation aspect, okay? So Adams scores, or he has 123.6 yards per game in 5 career games against San Francisco, right? That's the most by any player versus San Francisco since 1970. So he definitely, he is the best player that San Francisco has ever faced as far as wide receivers go. Minimum of 4 games, because there's some one-game wonders, whatever. Rodgers has 104.7 career passer rating and 12 starts against the 49ers. That's the highest by any starter against 49ers all time.
Wow.
So when you have the 2 best players on a team one throwing to the other, and they both have their best games against this team, that's something to be worrying about.
Yep. It's going to be tough. I think I have the Packers winning, but I mentioned this for the last game with the Titans, like run the ball. I mean, if 49ers just run the ball and control the clock here. It seems like sound like a broken record, but that's going to be the way to beat the Packers, right?
The best formula, the perfect formula in football is to have the perfect running game. If you have the perfect running game, you're going to win pretty much every game, right? But it has to be perfect. And that's what the 49ers are the closest thing to perfect as it gets when it comes to running game. Right. So, that could be their formula. That could very well be their formula, because if Rodgers is not allowed to throw for 5 touchdowns and the 49ers somehow squeak out long drives and scored 28 points on the ground, that makes it tough for the Packers, So,
Yeah, I think I lean 49ers to cover 5.5, but I'm still going to take the Packers to win that game. Obviously, like I mentioned again, 9 degrees, 11 mile per hour winds. So home field advantage for Green Bay is a real thing. Let's jump into Sunday, Shove It.